Hi, I'm David Bennett, and I've grown my salary from 30k all the way up to 80k in the last 5 years, and I've been promoted from entry level to senior leadership in that same time period. And I've had to deal with my fair share of different types of managers within that time, some of which were a blocker to my growth. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to turn any progress blocking manager into a cheerleader for your success. So with that, let's have a dive in, and I'll start by kind of talking a bit about why it's important to know how to turn a progress blocking manager into a cheerleader before we go into a bit more of the detail. And I can start by kind of explaining, I don't know if you might have heard of this, but if you imagine it's kind of an analogy for growth, and growth really compounds over time. And so the analogy goes, if you imagine a sailing ship, and sailing ships take a long time to turn, right? They're really slow to turn. So they have to make small adjustments to their course. And that's similar to your growth. If you imagine the boat makes a slight adjustment and a short time later, it's barely moved off its initial course. It looks quite similar, but quite a long time after that, if you imagine the original course going like this, you make your slight adjustment. After a long time, you're going to be really, really far away from each other. And it's an example to show how growth compounds. And it's a good example in this case, because if your manager is holding you back and you're not progressing for some reason because of your manager, you're missing out on those compounded gains because you're stuck, you're stagnating, you're not moving forward. So you're stuck on this like flat line. Whereas if you're able to make that adjustment and turn it around with your manager, you're going to be increasing those compounded gains over time significantly. So you're missing out on yes, you're missing out on a bit right now, but especially in the first 10 years of your career, you're missing out on an absolute ton by allowing yourself to be stuck. So you have to take action in these cases where you're stuck because of your manager. So with that, let's have a little look. Let's have a little dig deeper into one of my past experiences with my manager, which will kind of help to add a bit of flavor to it. So I have worked with a few managers over the years, and they have their various different quirks, but one in particular stands out. Where after a company restructure, I had a new manager, and they were kind of a layer in between me and C-suite. And I was running a department, and I was more than capable of running the department on my own. But it was a bit of a weird situation because my manager had taken ownership of my function, and she was kind of the person who was connecting it to the C-level suite, the CEO, CMO, etc. And what was happening was she couldn't say to the C-suite essentially that she wasn't needed and that I was running everything on my own absolutely fine. So it kind of tied her hands and put her in a position where she kind of has to claim some of the credit, else she looks like she's not necessarily doing her job. And so it kind of put us into a situation where I was stuck and demotivated because I was doing all this work and it all had to funnel up through her, which led to, and I saw moments and times where credit was claimed or credit wasn't given for work done by me or others in the team. And so it leads to this really stuck, demotivating feeling. You might be able to relate. You probably can relate if you're watching this video. And so after a few months of that, I decided that I wasn't going to live with it. I wasn't going to sit and let this keep happening. I was going to take control of this story and change the outcome, because I knew that I was going to end up flat and stagnant and stuck if I carried on. And so the rest of this video, I'm going to explain exactly how I did that. And hopefully you can apply those same principles as well in your work and with your role to turn a relationship around with your manager. So let's have a look at how I did it then. So there are kind of 4 key steps that I took when I reflected on this, and they the 4 steps are, first of all, to know exactly what you want, or work out exactly what you want, because you can't get what you want unless you know, and you're going to have to tell your manager that. We'll dig into each a bit more in a minute. The second one is to communicate that to your manager. I just alluded that, and I've got a method for doing that, which we'll talk about. The third one is to gather feedback and act on that feedback from your peers and from also your skip level manager, from your manager from one up from your current manager. Your boss's boss is a better way of saying it. And the final one is to slowly ask for small chunks of responsibility bit by bit, which eventually add up to a lot. And that way you're kind of like moving forward and progressing your career bit by bit without feeling too scary, and too scary to your manager as well, because that's often one of the blockers. So let's jump back to step 1. So first one is know what you want, or work out what you want. So you need to figure out, where do you want to go? Do you want to get promoted? Are you looking for a raise? Like where does your career want to go? What is it that you're looking to get? What's your manager blocking you from? If you know your manager's blocking you, then you must have some kind of inkling for what they're blocking you from. Is it more money? Is it promotion? Is it both? Could be both. Then what I suggest you do is you write that down really clearly. Just write down what you want as clearly as you possibly can. Is it a promotion? What exactly is the title of that promotion? What does the role do that you want to get promoted to? What is the salary that you're looking to achieve? Get a rough sense of that down, write it down. And a hard truth for you to hear, if you've not told your manager what you want, and if they don't know what you want, you might think that it's your manager that's blocking you, but in reality, you're blocking yourself, because they can't help you to get something that they don't know. They can't help you to achieve something unless they know what that is. So you have to figure out what you want and then tell them, because without that, it's you that's blocking your growth, not your manager. And it took me a while to learn that, but ever since I started figuring out what I want and communicating it, those 2 key steps, it's transformed my ability to grow my career and grow my salary as well, because it's the foundation to all growth, is knowing what you want and communicating it so that you can then forge a path to get there together. So that's the first step. Know what you want, and then we move on to the next one, which is to communicate what you want to your manager. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into this because I actually have another video that I'm going to link in the description. I've got a system which I use to really effectively ask for raises and ask for promotions, and it's perfect for this situation, because the best way to turn your manager around is to get them on side with your future direction, your career. And the best way to negotiate your career is through this system that I've created, and I'm going to link it in the description. You can get it completely free. You just got to sign up with your email address, and then it's all yours. So click on the link below to get that, and I'll give you a quick high-level summary of it. Basically, it's going to guide you through a process of refining what you want. You know, you figured out what you want in that step 1 that we just did, but it's going to help you to refine it a bit more, and it's going to help you to build a really solid case around what you want. And a solid case is a really good way to get your manager on side and turn them from a blocker into a cheerleader, because it makes their job so easy. Like they can, one of the biggest blockers for managers is they've got to go through their manager and explain it, why you deserve to be promoted or why you deserve more money. That's a lot of work and effort for them to do, especially if they're not super clear on why they don't have the data. So for you to create that for them, you just make it so easy for them that you're kind of opening them up and and you're sort of opening their eyes, and you're also taking away all the effort. So that system is going to help you to do that and lay the foundations. So you've got this first 2 steps is figure out what you want, and then you're going to communicate it using the system, which again, link in the description, hit it up. It's called the Salary Case Hack. Click the link and sign up. Then step 3 is to gather feedback and act on it. So your manager is absolutely critical in your growth and your career, so you have to turn them around. If your manager's blocking you, your relationship is bad, it is going to damage your career. So you've got to swallow your pride and you've got to turn it around. It's super important to do. When it comes to your manager though, they're not the only person that's involved in making a decision about your growth of your career and your raises. And so you've got to get more people on board. You've got to raise your exposure and your profile within your company. So what you're looking to do is collect feedback from the people you work with and from your skip level manager, so your boss's boss. And you want constructive feedback as well as positive feedback. And then you're going to act on the constructive feedback, and then you're going to ask for feedback on it again to show that you've been improving. And then you want to hear from those people that you've been improving. And if you haven't, then you try again until you improve it and you get the feedback that you've got there. So really important to gather that feedback, and it really helps like triangulate your position in the company and triangulate your case. And it also like puts your manager in a position where you've got all these people shouting for you and saying how great you are. It's going to starts to become very, very hard for them to block you when especially you've got your manager saying, wow, like, look how proactive James is being because he's coming to me asking for feedback. Like, so they'll start to talk about you. It's a really good way to add weight to your case and to your turnaround with your manager when they start to see you engaging more widely. So feedback, a really, really critical part of the process. And one of the key ways that I turn around my manager. And then the final one is to slowly ask for small chunks of responsibility. So the first three is kind of like laying the foundations and building a case, but like that's kind of like it's gonna help you a lot to turn your manager around, and you're kind of building this case, but it's not practical. Nothing's actually changing there. You're building a case and you're trying to improve, but like your role isn't necessarily growing. You're not necessarily getting those like blockers unblocked yet. So the fourth step is about that, making it a bit more practical. And what I realized with my manager, this was one of the main things that completely changed it for me, was I was starting by asking, like, I want to be promoted. I want a director level. But there was no way for me to get that because she was in a director position, and so she would have to leave or get promoted herself in order for me to get promoted. So there was nothing she could do. So I wasn't getting anything out of it initially. And over time I started to realize, okay, well, I need to get something right now because I'm very much stagnating. So what I started to do was to ask for really small bits of things that she was doing that were of that director level, of that level above, of that responsibility that I was blocked from. And I did it bit by bit. Every couple of weeks, maybe, hey, should we share the responsibility of this thing? Maybe you do it 1 week, I'll do it 1 week. Hey, can I come along to this budget meeting and start to represent the budget? And bit by bit, she started to accept that. And slowly, more and more and more, I got into these meetings. And if you're struggling to get into them, just take it back a step and just go a little bit slower, a bit less extreme. And if you're doing it in tandem with the other first steps, figuring out what you want, communicating it, asking for help, and gathering feedback, slowly you will start to get your manager more and more on side, and they'll be more and more open to giving you this responsibility. And eventually it starts to become a really good case for them because they're showing that they're developing their people. In reality, it's kind of you that's doing that, a lot of that, but it looks good on them that someone in the team is developing really effectively. And it actually helps them they're almost certainly going to be pushing for some kind of promotion or progression case themselves. And so it really helps them to drive that case too, because it shows they've got someone in the team, maybe that could even take their position, or who can take on some of their responsibilities when they step up. So that's the combination of factors that kind of feed together to turn your manager around. So let's kind of recap it to make it super clear. So first things first is swallow your pride. Your manager is super important for your progression. And so if you've got a bad relationship, swallow your pride, you're going to have to turn it around. you're going to have to figure it out, because otherwise you're going to have to leave the company, because your manager, or just wait for something to happen to your manager, wait for them to leave, and you don't want to be stuck. Remember that stagnation point at the start? You never want to be stagnating, because really that just means you're getting worse. Everyone else is getting better and you're stuck. So you always want to be improving, and you never want to be stagnating. So that means you're going to have to swallow your pride. You're going to have to turn around the relationship. First step, know exactly what you want. Have to figure out what you want, and you have to tell your manager, because if they don't know what you want, they can't help you. So if you haven't told your manager what you want, if you haven't got really clear on what you want, then you're holding yourself back, not them. So you've got to do that first. And you can speak to them about it as well. If you don't know, speak to them about it. Ask them, okay, what's the role that I could get promoted to? What's my path to progression? Where can I go next? That's an important step if you can't figure it out yourself. Step 2 is to, once you've got super clear on what you want, is to use the salary case hack system. And again, link in the description, click that, put in your email address, and it's yours for free. Use that system to refine your case and communicate that case with your manager. And that's going to really get them on side. It's going to make their job easy to provide a case to the wider business and the people who are making decisions about salaries, about you. So you're going to make their job really, really easy. And then following that, you're going to gather feedback, or at the same time, you're going to be gathering feedback from peers. Remember to get constructive as well as positive feedback, and also from your boss's boss. And you're going to use that feedback, act on it, and then you're going to show those examples of you acting on it to those same people who gave you feedback, and you're going to get feedback again to make sure that you've improved in the right way. Final step is to, and this one's really, really important, is to try to remember to make it super practical, to slowly keep grabbing little bits of responsibility. Those things that you know you need to do that you're blocked from, grab those little bits of responsibility, start showing that you can do it bit by bit, small bits of responsibility. Maybe it's a meeting here that you could take ownership of. Maybe it's a new metric or a bit of reporting that you could take ownership of. Maybe it's a budget that you could take ownership of. Something like that. Slowly. If you get blocked by a manager, what's a smaller version of that thing that you could do? Maybe you could just come along to the meeting for the first time. Something like that. You're looking for like progression all the time, and make it smaller. If you keep getting blocked, what's the smallest thing that you can get? But ideally you want the biggest thing that you can grab. So you make it bigger and then make it smaller if you're still getting blocked. Okay, so those are the 4 key steps. You follow those steps, you will be able to turn any manager from a progress blocker into a cheerleader in a matter of months. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you like the content. There's going to be more and more coming. And I've also got a link in the description to my free weekly newsletter if you're interested to join our community of future leaders who are on a mission to grow their salaries. Just hit the link below and sign up. And as I mentioned again, I also put in the description a link to the salary case hack, which is my system for refining your case and communicating that case for promotion or a raise with your manager, which is a key part of getting your manager back on side. So thanks again for watching. See you next time.